One kid killing the parents is a bad seed. Two kids killing the parents is a bad family.
Had that ever happened to you previously in your life, Mr. Menendez? Had you ever lost it emotionally?
Why don't you rephrase the question?
Okay, you said just then you thought you would lose it and be out of control.
Yeah, I felt my stomach twist, my bowels beginning to lose it.
Previously in your life, were there times when you lost control?
Yes.
Physically of your body?
Yes.
And were those moments when you were feeling what?
I was feeling too stressed out, too scared, too nervous.
Now, on this occasion, with your brother appearing frightened on the stairs, could you compare that to any other occasion in your life?
Yes.
Okay. Was it the same as other occasions, different than other occasions, the worst, the best, what?
It was worse than other occasions, but on the other occasions I let myself go. I would just sort of shake on the floor, and on this occasion I knew something was happening. I couldn't do that.
So you couldn't lose control?
I was losing control, but I wouldn't let myself. I was fighting myself. It's hard to describe.
Was there anything in your past that you were aware of, consciously aware of, that was as frightening as what was happening that Sunday on the stairs?
Maybe when Dad put the knife to my throat, but that's would be the only time.
Now, at that point, after your brother talked to you and said, "It's happening now," you said your thought was, "I had to get to the car"?
Yes.
Well, what was in the car?
All the shells.
Where was the gun?
In my bedroom.
But you didn't think I have to get to my bedroom?
Well, I knew I had to get to my bedroom, but I knew from the night before, for some stupid reason, I didn't load my gun, and I only had still 2 shells, and so I needed to get to my car.
Okay. Where did you go first, the car or your bedroom?
My bedroom.
And what did you do in your bedroom?
I got my gun.
And where did you go from there?
Out to the car.
Now, Mr. Menendez, did it occur to you to simply close the door to your bedroom and sit on the foot of your bed on Sunday night with the 2 shells in your gun and wait for your father and mother to come?
It flashed through my mind.
And why didn't you do that?
It flashed through my mind to barricade myself in my room, but I knew I wouldn't be able to do that.
Why not?
Because I panicked whenever something like that was happening.
Well, how many times before had something like this happened to you?
A lot. Not like this, but them coming into my room a lot. I mean, before almost all the times with the sex, I would say to myself, I'm not going to let this happen. I'm going to stop it. As soon as he comes into my room, I'm going to fight him. I'm going to jump on him. I imagine myself on a ledge, jumping down on him, all kinds of things to stop the sex. And whenever he came into the room, I just crumbled, and I couldn't do it. Similar like Saturday night.
And so did you think on Sunday night that if your father was coming into your room or your mother was coming into your room, did you think you were going to fight back, or you could have at that point?
No, I knew I couldn't. Not when he was right in front of me.
You recall testifying here that when your father would get angry with your brother would get timid?
Yes.
Do you recall hearing the testimony of various coaches that when your father would be on the attack verbally with your brother would go frozen?
Yes.
When your father would be on the attack with you over the course of your life, would you have a similar reaction?
Oh yes. I froze. I went dead. I usually started to lose control of my body, but when Dad was doing that to me, Lyle usually tried to come over and protect me and help me.
But my point is, did you fight back over the years with your father?
No.
Did you verbally resist?
No.
Apart from Thursday night, did you physically resist?
No.
Did you think you could?
No.
Why?
Because this was my dad. This was a big guy, and I don't know what it was. I mean, it was just my dad, and it was just something about it. I couldn't. I mean, I remember in the sex that when he would come into the room, I would want to say, no, I don't want to do this, and I would want to say, I don't want you to touch me, and I would want to say these things, but I would just see him. He was like huge, and he did what he wanted to me, and I couldn't stop that, and I wanted to, but I couldn't. I don't know why.
Well, on this occasion, on these two occasions, Saturday night and Sunday night, did you ever envision yourself actually physically fighting back against your father?
No.
What do you think would have happened if your father had approached you with a weapon on Sunday night?
Are you asking his state of mind?
Yes, at the time, yes.
Why don't you rephrase the question?
Thank you. And let me withdraw it for the moment. Let's do this. You did run out to your car.
Yes.
And you did load your gun.
Yes.
What did you do with the 2 rounds of birdshot that you had put in the gun on Friday?
I unloaded them.
And why did you do that?
Because of what the man said on Saturday.
The man said that they weren't good for protection.
Yes.
And did you then load the gun with the new ammunition?
Well, actually, what the man said was that they weren't good for protection because they were these teeny little things that...
Question was, did you then load your gun with the new ammunition?
Yes.
And do you remember how many you put in?
I don't remember. It was dark, and I just was reaching in, grabbing them and loading them. I think it was 5. I think I loaded it all the way that I knew how.
All the way without having to slide the pump down?
Yeah, I slide the pump down and then put in another shell like he described up here.
Like Deputy Van Horn described?
Yeah,
Did you do that?
No, I didn't do that.
So you put in as many as you could without having to do that?
Yes.
And are you sure you put in all new stuff?
It was dark. I tried to do that. I'm sure. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I tried to do that.
Now, at that point, then, you had a loaded gun, correct?
Yes.
So why didn't you just wait and see what your father and mother were going to do?
Because I was thinking they were coming out. I only thought I had seconds. I thought they were, as soon as they came out of their room, that I was going to die. I had to get to that room before they came out.
And going back for a moment to the previous question I was asking you concerning your state of mind, what did you think you would have done if, as you were going into the house, the den doors open and your parents are standing there with firearms? What do you think you would have done?
I just would have froze.
Excuse me?
I would have froze.
Were you afraid of that?
Yes, I was very afraid of that. I was terrified of them actually getting out of the room.
And confronting you with a weapon?
Objection, meeting.
Sustained.
Question was, what did you think you would have been able to do if they had confronted you with a weapon?
Nothing.
Now, do you recall as you were going into the den, Mr. Menendez, do you recall thinking something about what your parents were about to do?
Yes.
And what was the thought that flashed through your head?
That they were going to take my gun.
Take the gun that you were going in?
It was this stupidly big thing, and it was just I thought they were just going to grab it.
At what point?
As soon as I walked in the door.
Did you think they were armed at that point? Did you think they were not armed, or did you not think about that either way?
I had thought they were armed, but as I was running toward the foyer, I just remember thinking, they're going to get it. They're going to get this. They're going to get this.
They're going to get the gun?
Yeah.
Now, after you entered the den, what do you remember happened?
I just remember firing.
And did you aim in any particular place?
It was just in front of me.
And where were you standing?
I was standing, I guess, in front of the coffee table.
I can't hear you.
I was standing in front of the coffee table.
In front of the coffee table, how did the coffee table line up with the television set in that room?
It's right in front of the television set. Not right in front, but in front of it.
And were you between the television set and the coffee table, or were you between the coffee table and the couch?
No, I was between the television set and the coffee table.
And how close to the coffee table were you? Do you recall?
I don't recall. I wasn't close.
Were you closer to the television set?
Yes.
Now, when you went into the room, how soon did you start firing?
Immediately.
And when you came to this position between the television set and the coffee table, did you keep moving while you were firing, or at some point did you stand still?
I don't remember. I guess I kept moving. I had just run into the room. I guess I kept moving. I don't remember. All I remember is firing.
When you say you were between the coffee table and the television set, at what point was that?
That was after I finished firing.
That's where you wound up?
Yeah.
You said you were firing directly in front of you.
Yes.
If you're moving from the doors to the area with the TV and the coffee table, are you firing at the bookcases, which are directly in front of you?
No.
Or am I not understanding what you're saying?
I was just firing as I went into the room. I just started firing.
In what direction?
In front of me.
What was in front of you?
My parents.
So you were firing at your parents?
Yeah.
And was Lyle to your right or to your left?
He was to my right. To my right.
And could you tell when you first went through the doors where your parents were?
They were in front of us.
Where were they in relation to the furniture in the room?
Behind the coffee table. My dad wasn't, but my mom was.
When you say your dad wasn't behind the coffee table, where was he?
He was, the coffee table ended before the couch, I believe, and he was in that area, in front of the couch, a little bit to its left, I think. I don't remember. I mean, I just saw this figure, which I think I knew was my dad, and he was right there.
And did you see another figure besides the figure of your dad?
Yes.
And what was that figure's position when you first came into the room?
To my dad's right.
To your dad's right?
Yes.
And did you get in front of that figure? Did you get to a place where you were in front of that figure?
Yes.
Okay, and now, am I in front of you right now?
Yes.
Right, we're not directly lined up.
No.
Right? But I am, you're in front of me, I'm in front of you, correct?
Yes.
And do you know if you lined up directly with that second figure or if you were off to the side?
I don't know. I don't know. I just walked into the room, I just started firing, and I don't know. I didn't think about these things. I didn't think, where was this, where was that? I just started firing, and I don't know.
Okay. Did you fire at the second figure? Did you fire at the first figure? Do you know if you fired at both?
I don't know.
Did you ever get any closer to either of the figures than the area between the television and the coffee table?
What?
You don't understand my question?
No.
Let's start again. How far away from the coffee table were you when you remember firing right in front of you?
I was as close as I was. I didn't think about it.
Well, were you?
I know I ended up 2 or 3 feet away.
2 or 3 feet away from what?
The coffee table.
2 or 3 feet away from the end of the coffee table or from the side of the coffee table?
From the middle of the coffee table. The coffee table had 2 ends. I was 2 or 3 feet away from the center.
So you were 2 feet away from the edge of the coffee table?
The edge of the center.
So say this is the coffee table.
Yes.
You're 2 feet back from it.
Yes.
You don't want to come right out and blurt it. Actually...
And that's where you were, you say you ended up?
Yes.
And were you farther away before that point?
Excuse me?
You say you ended up there.
Yes.
Where were you coming from? What
The
direction?
door.
So you went from the door to there,
Yes.
Instead of the label name? Is that what you're saying?
just across the room. You didn't go forward and back, like towards and away from the coffee table?
No.
You said you were closer to the TV than the coffee table. Is that right?
Yes, I think so. It's not a whole lot of room.
Well, Mr. Menendez, the television set is more than 4 feet away from the coffee table, isn't it?
Probably 4 feet, and I was standing in the middle, 2 feet away from each. You're
Menendez.
asking me to remember these things that I don't.
The coffee table's about 12 feet away from the coffee table. The TV is about 12 feet away from the coffee table, wasn't it?
12 feet away?
It's completely across on the far wall of the room, isn't it?
So there's two at the top.
Yes, but the coffee table's in the center of the room.
Okay.
The coffee table was not 12 feet away from the TV. It was maybe 4 to 6 feet.
And so you were equidistant between the TV and the coffee table. Is that what
Yes.
you think? More
That's
or
what
less?
More or less.
However far it might have been.
Yes.
And when you ended up, wherever you ended up, was the firing over?
Yes.
And what
Yes.
had stopped the firing? Why did it end?
I just fired as much as I could.
And how much was as much as you could? Did you empty the gun or
Every
did
shell I had.
And after you had done that, did something happen?
Yes. Yes.
No, I sure don't. I'm cleaning up.
When after you had stopped firing, was the condition of the room
It might be
different
HBO.
than when you started?
Yes.
What was different about the condition of the room, not the
You know
people?
what it is? Oh, man.
I didn't really see the condition of the people. I just saw there was a lot of smoke. It was dark. There was light coming in from the hallway, from the TV, and it was real eerie. The TV was making illuminating lights, and it was horrible.
Was it darker before the shooting or after in the room?
Yeah, I was just on the phone.
Before.
Yeah,
It was darker before you shot?
during break.
Yes.
I don't understand. You said there was smoke in the room after.
Sustained, rephrase the question.
Did the smoke make the room darker, Mr. Menendez?
The smoke made it harder to see,
That's what I'm asking you.
but it wasn't.
All right, rephrase the question.
Was it harder to see in the room after the shooting or before?
After.
When you went in the room, were the room lights on?
No.
Was the television on?
Yes.
After the shooting, was the television still on?
Yes.
Were the room lights still off?
Yes.
Was there now smoke in the room?
Yes.
When the shooting ended, could you see either your father or your mother?
Yes.
Who could you see?
My father.
And where was he at that time?
He was on the couch.
Could you see your mother?
No.
Now, what was it that happened after the shooting ended?
I heard a noise from my mom.
And what was your reaction to that noise?
I just ran out of the room.
What did the noise, physically you ran out of the room, how did the noise make you feel?
It scared me. I just wanted to get out of there.
And where did you go?
Out through the foyer, to the front door. Lyle was right there.
Where did you go?
To the car.
And when you got to the car, what did you do?
I started scrambling. Lyle and I were scrambling for any shell he could find, and I just handed him one.
You found a shell?
Yes.
Do you know which kind it was? New
No.
one or old one?
I didn't look.
And you gave it to Lyle?
Yes.
And then what happened?
Lyle ran back in the house, and I sort of followed. I didn't want to go back in.
Well, did you go back in the house?
Yes.
And did you go back to the den?
No, I didn't go in the den.
Did you go back to the den?
Yes.
And did Lyle go back to the den?
Lyle was already in the den by that point.
And could you hear anything after you got back to the den?
I just heard a fire of a gun.
You heard what?
I heard Lyle fire the gun.
You heard a gun go off.
Yes.
Did you see Lyle firing the gun?
No.
Where were you exactly when you heard the firing of the gun?
I was coming toward the den.
Yes, where were you exactly?
In the hallway.
And where was your brother when you next saw him?
Coming out of the den.
And at that point, when he came out of the den, what did you do?
I just sat on the stairs.
You sat on the stairs?
Yes.
And what did he do?
He sat on the ground across from me.
Now, you heard your brother testify that the two of you were sitting in the foyer area for some period of time before there was any further conversation.
Yes.
Did that happen?
Yes. Not as long as he said, but...
Your recollection is it wasn't quite as long as he said?
No, I think he said something like 10 minutes or something like that.
Did you think it was that long?
No.
How long do you think it was?
Just a few minutes.
Excuse me?
Just a few minutes. Like 3-4 minutes. I don't know. I mean, it seemed like a long time, but I wasn't really thinking about time.
Your Honor, this would be a good time, speaking of time, to take a break.
All right, we'll take a recess. Please return at 15 minutes after the hour. And
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Menendez, calling your attention back to Sunday night, you and your brother are seated in the foyer, you said?
Yes.
And after a few minutes, do you and your brother have a conversation?
Yes.
And was anything mentioned in that conversation about the fact that the police hadn't come?
Yes.
And after that conversation, did you go back into the family room den and do something?
Yes.
What did you do in that room?
Lyle got his gun, and then we picked up the shells.
And where was your gun?
My gun was on the stairs in the foyer.
Now, do you remember generally where the shell casings were that you picked up?
Yes.
And where were they?
They were right around the door area.
Well, before you look at the diagram, they were right around the door area, the entryway into the room?
Yeah, they were right inside that area.
Were there anywhere near the table that's shown on that diagram as being to the side of the couch?
Yes. The one that just says table, the eight-sided one.
Can you show with the pointer the general area where the casings were?
Right around here.
That area? Yeah. Were there any, did you go anywhere near your mother and father when you went back in the room?
No.
Did you go at any time behind the couch when you went back in the room?
No.
So the area that you've just shown us, is that the only part of the room that you went into when you went to pick up the casings?
Yes.
And were the casings under anything, or were they just on the floor?
They may have been under the table. Most of them were just on the floor.
So some may have been under that, is that an octagonal table that's to the side of the couch?
Yeah, if that's an eight-sided table.
Okay, and that's what you meant by the table?
Yes.
Now, after doing that, did you and your brother leave the house?
Yes.
Now, you heard your brother testify to what you did after you left the house?
Yes.
Did you go to the AMC 14 movie theaters in Century City?
Sustained.
Did you do what your brother said you did concerning a theater?
Yeah, we went over to the theater.
And at some point, did you receive some tickets?
Lyle did, and he gave them to me.
And did you notice a time on those tickets?
Yes.
And as a consequence, did you not show those tickets to the police later?
Exactly. No.
And did you then, after the theater, go somewhere to do something with the guns?
Yes.
And where did you go?
Up to Mulholland.
And did you do with the guns what your brother said you did?
Yes.
You dumped them down the side of the hill?
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
Now, at some point that evening, after leaving the house, did you throw away some clothing?
Yes.
What kind of clothing did you throw away?
My pants, and that's all the clothing I threw away.
Let me ask you the question again. What kind of clothing did you throw away?
Did you just answer that question?
Yes.
Okay, next question.
Did you throw away anything in addition to your pants?
No.
Do you know if your brother threw away any clothing?
He did.
Do you know what he threw away?
I believe it was only his shoes.